I can't believe that we're even still kind of even talking about this, because I came into law enforcement about a little over 10 years ago with the assumption that it was a profession. The debate had already been well settled. I went through an excellent training academy in southern New Jersey. Trust plays an important role in maintaining the view that our profession is just that. I think that it's both trust with the community that we serve, but also trust within us. So we use character, competency, and commitment to establish us as a profession through the consistency within all three of those. I need to be consistent in my character, my commitment. I need to be consistent with how competent I interact with the public. So I think there's a key aspect in each one of those that if we hone in on, it makes it almost easier to be all three at the same time. Character, is incomplete if you only try to define it or explain it from an individual standpoint, because I think ethics are individually held but owned collectively. My ethics don't exist in a bubble. My ethics started so that we could be more successful as a social group, hunter-gatherers. So to try to extract any definition that focuses just on the individual at the expense of understanding that individual is both taking their ethic from the group but also feeding their ethic back into the group would be incomplete. So I think the conversation about are we a profession is almost solidified in the fact that yes, we have to be a profession. We have a group ethic, and my job is to contribute to that ethic in a very consistent manner, and then also take that ethic that is being held by other people within my profession and demonstrating that on a regular basis. It's always a give and take. So I think if you try to focus or nail down any one person or one aspect of it at the expense of the other, it's always going to be incomplete. Did you capture my hands waving like a wacky, wavy arm inflatable tube man? And that's on video.
It is.
There you go.
That's actually going to be on the website.
Yeah.
No, it's going to say guy from Jersey at the bottom. That's all that's going to be there.
Jersey dude.
Jersey dude. Yeah.
Right to me. So I think that everyone brings their own experiences, and they got into law enforcement for a particular reason. I think the important part is to write that down early in your career, and so you could look back on it and try to stay true to your values and why you got started, rather than be affected by everybody else's. Purpose is, I think, a guidepost for most people. Right? I think you could lose your way pretty easily without purpose. So as a professional within law enforcement, you need that purpose, and that could be, it should be personal to the individual, but at the same time, that's a guidepost that makes sure I stay within my character boundaries, make sure I'm committed to my profession, I remain competent, to tie them all back in together. Purpose is critical if we want to be looked at as a professional in our law enforcement, because we all need a why, and I think that why is an excellent guidepost for everything we do as a profession, and without it you can get lost. I have an interesting take on stewardship, and I think that a lot of people in this profession can get wrapped up in individual goals and resume building, and I have this title, I've accomplished this. But I like to see it as this, like, was the traffic lieutenant, but I'm not the traffic lieutenant. It's not my unit. I'm holding that office for the next guy, and if I can make my improvements and hand that over, it's the department's traffic unit over to the next traffic commander, that's the value, and that's how, as a profession, we can continue to grow rather than hit the reset button every time some new guy gets into the position and I'm the head honcho.
Esprit
bottling lightning. Esprit De Corps is, I think, very important to a profession. I think this is probably where, as law enforcement, we have the hardest time, because specifically as the Generation X, the skeptics come in, and we have a tendency to dwell on the negative and dwell on how the job has changed negatively, and like we are kind of all in the suck together, but what we forget, or we get dragged down by it, and it's typically a tragedy or a critical incident that you'll see that Esprit De Corps come back, and it's like the honeymoon period, and then it dissolves back into the daily grind, because it's super hard to stay committed every single day when you show up and you have to read a 47-page policy that they put out because they changed 2 words in it. But when they look inwards towards policing, which is to defend our values here, it's something that gets lost, and I think that we've probably betrayed that at times, because we've lost our way, and we take outside criticism when we start pushing back. And I think that honorable service is looking outward and saying, what do we need to do to protect society, and take control of our profession and put it in that direction, rather than have our honorable profession pushed in a different direction that makes us defensive. You simply can't graduate the police academy and become a professional within our organization, because we need to actually apply what we've learned in a classroom setting in real life before you can say that you've acquired expertise in being a law enforcement professional. And I think that one of the hardest things to do is to go through all your certifications in a police academy and then get out and say, I think I know what I'm doing, but this is what domestic violence looks like in someone's living room. I memorized the chart and I know what I'm supposed to do, but it's hot, there's people screaming, and I'm not 100% sure exactly which of these concepts apply here, and that speaks to the need to develop our expertise if we want to be a professional. And I speak very passionately about field training. I feel that field training officers understand the need to develop and cultivate experience, and experience leads to expertise, right? The same root word. And that's really, I think, the golden value and role that FTOs play in developing expertise. In the police academy, we're taught about the slippery slope and noble cause corruption, and you learn it in a bubble. And the examples they always use is that in New Jersey, you're not allowed to accept a free cup of coffee. Otherwise, you're going to end up in some hole where you're going to get indicted for some reason. And I think ethics are something you have to live. You can't learn it in a classroom. So I think having our new officers end up in a coffee shop in that moment when someone says thank you for your service and hands you the cup of coffee, like that's the greatest moment to teach ethics. Because now what do? Do you turn down someone's thank you and attempt to honor you? Or do you accept the cup of coffee knowing that you're going straight to hell because you're on the slope to slippery, like right down to the bottom of the pit? And I think that the importance of having a mentor there to help you not make that moment awkward, to make it genuine, to say thank you, and to figure out a way to stay true to what your personal ethics are, but not make that simple act of kindness weird. And then afterwards have a very deliberate conversation about why that was an ethical decision-making moment, so that way they understand that there'll be other moments and that they have to find their own way, so they are reconciling some book knowledge and also some basic human experience, that if someone says thank you and they want to thank me, like, I should just say thank you very much. So there's a bunch of different things you could do, and like we talk about it afterwards. Is like, all right, so like there's the ubiquitous tip jar. You know, like usually if you get a free cup of coffee, it usually costs you way more, because if I only have a five's going into the. I just spent $5 on a medium coffee, right? Other things are, hey, listen, if you don't feel like you want to be put in that position, bring your own coffee, right? There's a whole bunch of ways that you could, you know, kind of avoid putting yourself in dilemmas. So that's one lesson. But then now when you're there, it's like, oh, that's great. Hey, I would like to pass it forward. You're very kind to me. Can I buy this person their cup of coffee, right? And it's just, it ends up being like such a natural, right? It's as cops, you just forget to be a human, like a person again, right? And it's just like, can you just, you know, pass it along, pay it along, like hold the door open for someone that's holding the door open for you. Like those are very natural experiences that when you put a police uniform on and we send you through a police academy, that like somehow you stop acting like an individual that was just part of society, and now you're some weird robot that doesn't know how to interact with anybody. So. But ethics don't exist in the classroom alone. In fact, I would argue that it's an artificial environment in which you're discussing them, because you're in safety and you're not, unless you're, you know, have some sort of ethical dilemma you're going to put your class through, it's artificial. So the second piece that we need to actually teach ethics is now, this is what ethics look like in the field, and to have a mentor or a coach there to identify it, or to have the expertise to see that we're going towards an ethical dilemma situation here, be prepared enough to say, I see it, my trainee may not see it, but I'm going to make sure that I help them through that, and then be able to discuss that whole experience afterwards. I think wraps the entire practice and application of it together with the classroom portion of it. I will say also that after experiencing those dilemmas, going back into a classroom and discussing the actual mechanisms are critical, because now once I understand what it feels like to be in an ethical dilemma, now I could better understand the tools that I was trying to be taught, but I didn't even know what one felt like, what a dilemma felt like, because I was never really like self-aware of it enough. So understanding what one feels like, and then going back and being given the tools to manage those, I think is where we've probably lacked a little bit, and especially in my personal ethics training, which was basically the police academy, and then nothing else afterwards. So FTOs are not unfamiliar with standards. I mean, that's what our entire program is typically based on, is a standard of behavior. And I think that as a profession, those standards might vary from agency to agency and state to state. And that variation is okay, because being a police officer in New Jersey looks just a little bit different than being an officer in Guam on an island. And but the commonalities are there, right? I mean, I think that you know, we need standards, because those tie directly to what the public expects from us, and those standards end up being like clear guideposts for where the new people entering our profession need to be. And if you know where you need to be, you can get a general assessment where you are, then the route becomes a little clearer. It's still super confusing to a new guy sitting in a car, but you know, that's, I think, the beauty of standards, and I think why the FTO community is critical in ensuring that we maintain a profession. I mean, we are an apprenticeship program, and but it's not just a trade or skills, it's how to live and act and become part of our culture, and which serves our community.